Hey everyone, it's Foxx from modelmaking.guru here. Hello, hello, and welcome to the final ever episode of my build of the Fanhome 1/8 scale Dodge Charger RT from The Fast and Furious. Yes, still haven't watched the films. I know, hey. Anyway, yes, this is going to be the final episode because we've got from issues 99 to 110 to do. And then that's it. We're done. That's it. It's completed. It looks pretty good now, but this is still got a lot to do. Now, we're going to have some of the most stressful building to do today, because today involves putting this here gorgeous body shell on this here chassis. And yeah, it's one of the trickiest parts to do because you kind of need 4 pairs of hands, and I've only got my normal hands, so that's going to be interesting. But yes, we're going to get it finished today. We're going to crack on. Now, before we get going, as always, I have to do a big, massive thank you to the folks at Fanhome for providing me with this partwork. They provide it to me free of charge and gratis. I don't pay for this. So big, massive thank you to them. They don't, however, have any say in what I do on these streams. It's all my opinions. They have no say in the creative process. But big, massive thank you to them. If you're not sure who Fanhome are, here's a quick video. So now you know, there you go. So if you're interested in this partwork, there's a link in the description below the video and the link's on screen there as well. Do go and check it out. It's really worth it. It's a gorgeous 8 kilograms of awesome Dodge Charger hotness, and it's well worth it. So do go and check it out if you're interested. Now, like I said, today we're going to start with issue 99. I'm going to do it in pack chunks. The first 4 and then the next 4 and then the last 4, as we've done before. I don't think I'll do a time-lapse thing today like I have in the previous issues. I think I'll just do a lot of editing to have little quick snippets where I'm still talking, I think. So let us crack on. I shall go and get everything ready. I'll get the big spongy mat of building out. We're going to be starting on the trunk, getting the trunk and the trunk lid sorted out. So we're going to have to get the body shell off and flip it upside down. Now, I do apologise if any of the following bits are a bit garbagey in terms of seeing things, because it's going to be a real struggle to film anything. And my neighbour's just started with the lawnmower. So also expect lots of lawnmower and garden sounds, because it's bank holiday and everybody's out doing the gardens. And I can't not have the window open, otherwise I would just die. Anyway, shut up, Fox. Let's crack on. Let's go and get issues 99, 100, 101 and 102 and get the build going. Back in a moment. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make the hinges for the trunk lid. I've built one here. And it's dead simple. That's the left one. Now, it does tell you to build a hinge, attach it to the body shell, and then build the next hinge. But I'm not doing that. I'm going to build both hinges first. Just make sure you keep them separated. It does say left on it and right on it. So that's the left one. So it's dead simple. All you do is you get your little piece like that, which needs to go this way around. And you put onto it a washer. Oops, if I can pick one up. A washer. Hey, you can't pick it up. Oh, I could just pick it up, but that would be too easy. Right, I'm just going to pick it up. There we go. And I've got my gloves stuck. Oh, I don't know why I'm wearing gloves. Well, I do know why I'm wearing gloves, because we've got body shell involved, and that's... I don't want to get grubby finger marks all over it. Now, it does show in the images this washer being a lot further down on the rod there. But yeah, it does not quite go that far down. Then what we need to do is put this hinge unit on here, and we need to get that in with an IM screw. Now this is the tricky bit, getting it all to stay together while you do it on camera. There we go, screw's gone in, so it needs to be this way around. Yes, that is correct. And we're going to get this in. Now it does go in quite a way, got quite a lot of screwing to do, and it will push the actual hinge unit towards the left-hand side, so that's good. It'll keep going until it stops, basically. It'll make a nice tight joint. And it doesn't matter if the joint's really tight, because you don't want the boot lid, so the trunk lid, it's an American car, you don't want the trunk lid to be flopping down every 5 seconds. Right, keep going, keep going, keep going. I mean, I'm guessing once we get the trunk in there, we may have to adjust these slightly to get them to expand or contract to fit the trunk lid. So it doesn't say how tight to do them, but that's nice and tight. Yes, it's not going anywhere. Right, so we've got both of those hinges made. So now we need to get these puppies fitted. Okay, so now the hinges need to go into the body shell, and they sit into these holes on either side of the top of the trunk, and they're held in place with 2 AM screws, which is going to be hard for me to film so you can see anything. Also, if the screw keeps coming off the screwdriver, that doesn't help. You can get the screw in there. Maybe. Maybe. Nope. There we go. It's quite hard to do with the camera where it is, because it's the only place I can get the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Now we're going to need to do this on the other side with the other hinge as well, and then on to the next step. Next, we just need to put the reinforcement plate, which you can see here, into the 2 holes on the metal piece we've just installed. And that just quite simply pushes into place like that. Doesn't need any screws to hold it in place. Okay, now the true test. We have to get the trunk lid on. Ooh, nice and shiny. So let's see if this all fits together. This mounts onto the 2 hinges we've just installed. Let us find out. And it should attach with 4 AM screws. So let's put 1 in. Shaky hands today as always. I've only had 1 cup of coffee. Okay, it does seem to be like everything's lining up. I'm not doing these super tight. I'm doing just finger tight for the moment. And knock the camera. Of course I have to knock the camera. I'm going to do the top left one for this one. So we've got some stress across the whole joint there. A bit too much oil on that one. Oh, slipping. So what I can do is loosely put them in and then tighten them up crossways. Happy birthday today, obviously not tomorrow because when this comes out. Happy birthday, big happy birthday to Tony Fairclough, who's 138 to 12 to 12 today. Helgen 35. He's a lovely fella. He's not done any YouTube in a while because real life's got in the way, which it always does with these things. But we love him dearly. He's as much of a spoon as I am, if not more so. I think he's more so. Right, so that does seem to be on. What does it say after that? You have now attached the boot lid. Now, to be fair, a word of notice, by the way, these hinge loops here on either side and this trunk lid, they are actually from issue 98. It just doesn't actually tell you that. It doesn't say in the instructions, get the hinge loops from issue 90. It doesn't tell you that. So you have to remember, if it's been a month since you did the last one, you'll have these in your box of bits. So do keep that in mind. These are from the previous issue. So I shall turn this over, which will make everything go wrong. Oh, gently, gently. And we'll just have a look and see. Oh, nice butt. Yes, it does seem to sit down quite nicely. And because we made them quite tight, it stays up as well. There's a lot of liner to go on the boot lid and everything else. This is just initially the rough. What's that pinging noise? That's a spring, I think, isn't it? Doesn't matter. Right, so that is that done, and that completes issue 99. So I shall put that away, and we'll crack on with. Ooh, nice. We'll crack on with issue 100. Now, many part works. This will be the last one, but we've got 10 more after this. Issue 100 coming up. Okay, so issue 100 is all about that trunk. It's all about the trunk. So we've got the safety latches to put in. We've also got these little tiny circlips, which I've kept in the bag just for safety, because I don't want them to, fall out and get lost. They're the bits that hold the trunk lid down. So the first thing we need to do is put the safety latches in. And if I'm reading the instructions correctly, it's this side, the side with the injection mold release bits, and where these pieces are recessed, and they need to go in with the thin part, do it on camera there, the thin part sticking down. So it goes into these corner pieces here. Now, I'm not confident these are going to be a very tight fit. We'll find out. We shall find out. If they're not, I'm going to have to do a little bit of the CA glue, perhaps, just to lock them in. This is not easy with the glove on either. Right. I don't think they're going to stick in very well. Well, they might do. I'm assuming it's meant to be a nice tight fit. They're not exactly a clean moulding. Aha. There we go, that's one in. Oh, no, it's not. Let's try with a little pair of pliers, shall we? Okay, that's one in. Have to hope it's in the right place. I have to hope it doesn't fall out while I'm doing the rest of it onto the floor and disappear forever. That would not be good. That would not be cool. Please don't fall out. Right, so again on that side. Okay, that's that in. Now they're not exactly lined up. I'm assuming the hole needs to be there. But I'm also assuming perhaps I can spin that round with a pin or something later. Okay, so now it says to turn it over carefully. And we need to install the boot lock housing. Here you see. Like that. And secure it with 2 OP screws. And of course my screwdriver picks up all the OP screws in the world. Now I'm using my my Partworks squishy foam mat. If you're interested in getting one of these, it's ideal for when you're working on, say, shiny metal parts that you don't want to get scratched and scuffed. And it also allows you to, you know, not knacker anything by putting on too much pressure. There is a link in the description below the video for these Partwork mats. I can't remember who they're by, so I'm not saying what they're called because I can't remember. Oops. But they're really good. They're washable, and you can get them monogrammed with your own words. Look at them shakes. Wow, maximum shakes. Okay, that's not going to go any tighter, I don't think. They're doing that spinning freely thing, but as long as it's in, I don't really care. There we go. So that's the boot lock latch. What's next? Next, we have to install this bit we've just done into the trunk. I keep saying boot and trunk interchangeably. I should just say trunk. Okay, so now we need to install this onto the trunk lid. Now, in the magazine, it shows you pushing it down through here. Don't bother. It doesn't fit. It's a pain in the bum. Just slide it up like this underneath. There you go. And done. How easy was that? That was dead easy. I can feel the little safety latches sticking up through the holes in the trunk lid, so you'll see them in a minute. And all we need to do now is secure that in place, as they say, with 9 AM screws. These need to go all around the trunk, so let's just get all these in. I won't film the whole thing because you don't need to see me screwing screws into the trunk lid. There's 9 of them. Follow the guide in the magazine as to where they need to go. And again, don't over tighten them because they are going into plastic first and then metal, so be gentle. Put them in finger tight first and then work your way around to actually get them all locked up fully. So there's one goes here and so on and so forth. So I'll get all that done. When we come back, we'll do the next step. Okay, so that's done. Latches are in, the lining on the trunk lid is in. It closes nicely, and the lock that we put in earlier now means you can unlock it and it'll stay closed. And the hinge is tight enough that the trunk lid just stays open. It moves a little tiny bit, but we're never going to have it open anyway. A couple of last steps now. We need to put these little squishy things in. These are the bases of the safety latches. These just go little black things, if I could do it on camera. These are little rubbery things that just sit in the hole like that. I don't know how firm they're supposed to be, but they're in there quite well. And then the last step, I'll do the other side in a minute. The last step is to put the little circlip in the safety latch. And this is where you get tricky twiddly times. See if I can do this without swearing or messing it up or breaking one. Right, that was a right pain in the bum getting them done. Here's some advice so you don't have to do or go through what I went through. Do not follow the instructions of the magazine for these little circlips. Here's what you do. Get yourself a pin, fine clothing pin, you know, darning pin. Put it in the hole in the latch, pop the latch back out again. The latch is that little silver rod. Pop that back out again. It's not fixed in there permanently. You can just pull them out. Then get the circlip, the little silver circlip, in a pair of needle nose pliers, very fine, grippy needle nose pliers, and then try and attach them. The reason you don't want to do it with the latch in the trunk lid is, first of all, you want to be able to maneuver that latch as well as the circlip. Otherwise, you're going to be there for hours farting about trying to get them together. Don't use your fingers or tweezers for the circlip. Use pliers, fine needle pliers, because then you need it not to be spinning and moving around. Tweezers, it's just going to be moving around and it'll make your life a misery. But you don't want to do it in here because A, you want to be able to move the latch around to make your life easier, and also you risk scratching the crap out of your trunk lid if you're trying to maneuver tweezers or your pliers or whatever. But with that done, the trunk lid is complete. It's got a nice latch on it now, it locks properly, and that completes issue 100. So I'll go and get everything ready and we'll move on to issue 100 and the ones. Okay, so it's issue 101 time, and we're starting off continuing with the trunk. We've got to do the trunk liner now. So first step, these two plastic parts go together quite nicely, and they just need to be fixed together with 3 CP screws. So let me just have 13 pairs of hands available. As always, watch this screw not go in now. Oh, I knew it would do that. I knew it would wiggle. Oh, such nonsense. Right, it's quite a loose fit, this one. Go on, get in the hole. There we go. Good lad. Good lad. Nope. There we go. You go there. You stay there. Yes. I'll do this end so we can balance out the stress across the plastic. Apologies, this is not actually visible to you very easily. And then I'll do the middle one. I'll get all these tightened up and we shall move on to the next step. Yes. Okay, so it's time to return to the seamy underbelly inner area. We're going to install that bit we've just made into the body shell. We've got 3 little connection points here. So it just sits in there, hopefully. And then we just need 3 FM screws, because they're going into metal. Touch of oil, and we'll get that in like that. If I've got it lined up. It's quite tricky to get it lined up, but once it goes in, it goes in. And again, as before, don't want to stress the plastic too much, so I'll get the 3 screws in loosely, and then I'll go around and tighten them all up. And the last step in this issue is to put this little hinge bracket on either side of the boot hinge. You can see it's got a little sort of key shape there, which will stop it spinning around when we attach it. So it just needs to go on that little screw socket there, and we'll put a couple of CM screws to hold these in. And like I said, that little key will stop it spinning around, so it's going to be lined up nicely. I'll get the one on the other side done, and that concludes issue 101. Okay, so it's issue 102, the last one in this pack, and as you can see, we're on the shiny, shiny bumper. It is a plated plastic part. All model making issues aside, it actually looks quite good. It looks pretty good because it's kind of in scale with the 1/8 scale vehicle. It's a kind of acceptable level of shine. For a lot of modelers with smaller scale models like 1/24th, 1/43rd, they'll actually strip this off and paint it some other way to make it look more in scale, because that would look a bit silly on a tiny car. But on this car, it looks all right. The one downside, though, is that when it comes off the sprue in the factory, you get these dirty, great big nubs, because they put the gate there, not on this corner and, you know, hidden away, but there. And there's absolutely nothing you can do with that. You can't touch that in with anything, because nothing will look like that. If you try even the shiniest of silver paints you've got, it'll look crap. So don't even try. Just leave that. Don't try sanding it away, because you just have bare plastic and it'll look like absolute garbage. So I'm happy with it. There is some slight nonsense going on there that I don't know whether it's just in the painting process or it's been scuffed or something in transit. But it's not the end of the world. It's a big car. Nobody's going to notice that when they're seeing a dirty, great big car. And I might be tempted at the end of all this to do a little bit of Tamiya buff dusting effects on the lower part of the car anyway. And that'll hide that. Also get the license plate as well. There you go. And we've got some of the other bits of the bumper. So the first thing we need to do is attach this sucker to there. And that just literally goes in with that. And goes in with 2 screws. I think these are AP screws. And we've actually got only AP screws. Why are there a big pair of scissors there? I don't know what's a big pair of scissors there for. Everything's disorganised. Right, let's go and get these screws on. It's 2 AP screws, just to hold in this license plate, which has now fallen out. Now do be careful of this. It doesn't really make it clear in the magazine which way around the license plate goes, but it does go that way. It hangs down below the bumper. So put it on that side and then attach it through here. There we go. There's one. Ooh, get it in the hole here. And I'll get the just in loosely, and I'll put this one in, and then we'll tighten them up. And then we'll go on to the next step. With the bumper built, all we need to do is stick it in place. Now it says in the magazine to do this the other way up and then turn it over. I could just do it like this. It's just as easy to just put it in place there. So these should line up in there, hopefully. All being well, fingers crossed. Yes. Ooh. Yes. And then this is fixed in place with 5 AP screws. So again, going into plastic. No oil required. Let me find the little holes. I don't know where the holes are. There they are. So I'll get all these screws put in. And then I think that might be it. I'll have a check in a second. Nope, that's everything. So I'll get all this screwed together and I'll see you for the next pack. All right, so we're on the penultimate box of goodies now, and it's issue 103, where we're going to assemble the rear valance, get it on the shell, and move on to the next issue. Dead simple, this one. Only a few parts. We have a trim piece for the light fitting, which goes on 2 little tiny nubs like that. We have a lens that goes in here like that, you see. Then we have this piece here. Now, this is kind of weird. It sits at a funny angle. It looks like it's not going to fit, but it does. It just kind of sits weird. You have to line it up with the screw holes, and then we fix that in place with a couple of CM screws. So going to metal, little touch of oil, just to make life easier. Get that screw in there. Get the first one in so we know we're lined up. And then get another one. It does look like it's not going to sit properly because the screws are at an angle, but they will. It'll be fine. That one goes in there. Got the shakes again. It's a new day today. Today's Tuesday. And the shakes are still with me. It's part of being an old person, I suppose. Right, so gently screwed in, because they are going into metal, but they're also going through plastic, so we don't want to go too harsh with them. Right, so that's that screwed in, and we have that light on the back. So I'll do the one on the other side, and then we'll stick it on the body shell. Okay, that's the valance done, looking rather nice. And this simply goes onto the back here, like this. Clicks into place. And then we need to hold that in place with 2 AM screws. Now I have to say, this is the pack I've been dreading since very early in this build, because this is the pack where we have to attach the body shell to the chassis. Can't say I'm looking forward to that too much, because I have horrible memories of building the X-Wing and putting the wings on the X-Wing on a live stream, and that was traumatic. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll get this screwed in properly. And then we'll go on to issue 104. And it's issue 104 now. Dead simple. 2 rear wheel arches to put in place with 2 screws. And I do apologise for any other strange noises that aren't the magpie. My neighbour's now doing all his DIY. I love my neighbours so much. Anyway, rear arches. Wheel arches even. Rear arches. There we go. That sits in there. And I need 2 FM screws to hold those in place. So touch of oil. Somebody's sending me messages. Touch of oil. And we've just got 2 screws in each wheel arch, and that's it. So I'll get both these screws put in nice and tighty, and we'll move on to issue 105. Getting close to issue 106. I'm dreading it so much. Okay, so on to issue 105. You know, when you're playing like let's say specifically a first-person shooter, and you're playing the game, you're killing the bad guys, and you're walking around, and then you get a few corridors where there's not much going on, and you're like, oh, this is a nice break. This is a nice little respite from all the carnage and violence, and I can just relax for a moment. And then you come to a door, a big massive door, and there's just all the ammunition in the world and all the armour and power-ups in the world piled in front of it. And you sit there and you think, I know what's coming next. Yeah, that's how I feel right now with these last 3 issues. These are just little delicate tidbits leading up to issue 106. Oh. Right, we have to make the floor of the trunk. So it's dead simple. We have 3 parts. We have the spare wheel holder, which is apparently what this is. You've got 2 little teeth here and a screw hole, a little hole for these pegs. This little silver bit here, the little T-shape, needs to sit in that little set of teeth like that, so that that clips in and that can freely move. Now, there isn't actually a spare wheel in this. It's part of the actual trunk. And then we flip that over. And we just need to screw this into place with some of these screws, which are MP screws. I've prepared Mama Wolf to let her know that if she hears lots of swearing coming from this room, just to leave me be and not get involved, because it's probably for the best. Right, that's that bit done. Spare wheel holder. Let's go and make the fuel tank and do the issue 106 nonsense. Whoa. Okay, we can do this, folks. We can do this. Issue 106 starts you off with some simple construction before the nightmare that is the body shell bit. Right, let's put this together. So we're making the fuel tank first of all. We have to put the fuel tank level sensor thing on there. There's a little handle on there. I don't suppose it really matters which way around it goes. It doesn't suggest anything specific in the instructions. Got 2 posts there and 2 things here. And this isn't chiral, so we need it that way and that way. That just sits together like that. And then we need 2 AP screws to go in here, you see? Get a couple of AP screws. As always, going into plastic, no oil needed. Now this needs to go onto the trunk floor that we made earlier. So this comes into here. So you've got 2 posts there, and that quite simply sits like that, I think. Yes, it just seems to suggest that, so I'll make sure I've got these lined up. How can you tell? I do not know. Right, so that should be in. It's difficult to know you've got the posts in the holes because you can't actually see them. You just have to kind of... Oh, hang on. There's a little peg there. Ha! And I have got that the wrong way around. What? Well, you didn't tell me that, did you? Right, let's take this back apart again. Right. I mean, I could have just nipped that little piece off and put it in that other way, but it helps you locate it as well. So, especially when you're screwing into plastic and you've got, you know, pegs and things like that and little holes to fit things in. You don't want things going not lined up, because if you get it not lined up right, then the screw might shred everything. But this little peg means I can guarantee that when I put it all together, the screw will be lined up with the peg, with the post. So that now requires 2 AP screws, so 2 more of those. We'll get 2 more. Yes, thanks for that. Right, so that's in. We now need to put the little tubes in. We have these little rubber tubes. And these simply attach to the 2 pins here and the 2 little nipples on here. Now, as with these things, as always with these things, they never tend to stay in place. So I'll get them on, and then if they do tend to ping off, I'll go back and fix them in place with a little bit of CA glue. Now, it shows them all in like funky shapes here, but you can't fix them into a shape. They're just whatever way they go round. So I'll just put them on, and then yeah. But if they do tend to pop out a lot, I'll just get. You could use PVA glue if you wanted it to be less damaging, but you know, if you want to take less risks. But if you needed to, you could just get a little bit of CA glue or PVA glue. That might be the wrong way around, actually. Yes, that's a slightly longer one. That's the shorter one. There we go. This one needs to go here. This one's slightly longer. I know you can't see it because it's not on camera, you doofus, Fox. Get the magazine out of the way so they can see. That one goes around the back. The longer one attaches to the back. Like that. I can't see the pin because the camera's in the way. Turn it around, might be an idea, wouldn't it? That's on. I suspect that will stay on for at least 3.5 seconds. 5 minutes at tops, maybe. That goes on there. These are just hollow tubes that glom onto the little plastic nipples. There you go. So there we go, that's that done. Yeah, if it does come off, I'll just touch a little bit of CA glue on a cocktail stick just to lock it in place. I don't want to do that now, just in case I do that and then for any reason I have to take them off again. But once if this do come off, I can open the boot and stick them in place. Right, so now we have to put the trunk floor. I'm into changing trunk and boot, aren't I, all over the place here. Into the back of the car, so I will need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 LP screws. Let me get my LP screws ready. LP screws made to make your things something. I don't know. Okay, so this hopefully should be a simple step. All we need to do now is take the trunk floor that we've just built and insert it here. Only thing we need to be aware of is you've got the fuel pipe here with this little knobble on the end. That needs to locate into that hole there. Now, I have seen some people struggling and farting around with this. My plan is stick this in, get a couple of screws in, turn it over and just wiggle this around until it clicks into place. That's the only thing I can think to do. And we'll see if these tubes come out. So this should, theoretically, be a good lad. I'll get this power cable down here as well. You can't see it, but there's the power lead down there. That needs to be accessible. So we'll get that in there, like that, making sure that that power line is still sticking out and visible. I'll get a couple of screws in just to lock everything in place. Then I'll turn it over and make sure that pipe is seated. I don't want this like too tightly screwed in because I need to be able to wiggle that pipe around and make sure it all fits together. I'm going to need a torch. I know you can't see this. I do apologise. Let's move the camera, then you can see it. Right, so we've got the pipe there, and it is not quite in the hole, so let's just wiggle it around. And it's in the hole, I think. There, done. No big drama. That's the easiest way to do that. Get a couple of screws in. At least that's what I was hoping it was. Get a couple of screws in, turn it over. Carefully turn it over again. Turn it over, pop the pipe in. Bob's your uncle. Because I've done it on builds and models and things before. You've got a pipe that needs to fit into a hole. Just put it together and then just wiggle the pipe around. Right, that was easier than I hoped. So I shall go and get the rest of these LP screws. There's 6 of them. And then the next step, we have to add some more AM screws after these. And then the next step is the big scary one. Yeah, the big scary one. Okay, moment of truth. I've got the main chassis here. I've got the body shell up there, vertical. I've had to lift my light up. This is where it goes well or wrong. I've got this power line here that I need to pop out. This is one of the lighting wires. I need to connect that to the little switch that's down at the bottom of the chassis. I'm going to be over there, so you probably won't be able to hear me. If I go really quiet, I'll voice over, but yes, wish me luck. Right, first thing I need to do is, can I use my microphone as something to lean? No. Right, the first thing I need to do is have one hand free. Take that off. Wish me luck, folks. Now, I need a hand and 2 hands to hook this together. That's not going to work, is it? Oops. Right. I need to somehow connect this to that. Hang on. Let's raise this up a little bit. I'm being super careful to keep everything on soft and squishy surfaces. I don't even know the right way around this needs to go. I think it's this way. So I need to. Apologies for this, folks. Probably not going to see much of any interest. This needs to be higher. There. Higher. Higher. Right, that's what I'll do. Let's see if we can get this in. This would be easier with an extra set of hands. But hey, you work with what you've got. no, no. I'm going to have to raise this up a little bit. Give me a second. Let me put some books under there. 1 second. I'll just got to move all this out of the way again. Right, let me put something down here. 1 sec. Right, got some books there. It's not much use for anything else now, that codex, but it'll work for this, hopefully. So we'll move the microphone out of the way. Get out of the way. Hope you can see all this, by the way. It's probably absolute nonsense from your point of view. So we'll try that again. Very carefully and gently rest of this. I don't want to break anything. I don't want to snap the license plate or anything like that. I'm knocking my light all over the place. Right. This is where it gets tricky now, because I don't know which way around this is supposed to go. Yes, huge success. That is in. I had it the wrong way around. Right. That's in. So I can get rid of these books. Away with you. Somewhere book, go there. Right. Now, I have to not drop this down too far because it will break the wire. I have to get this on here. Apparently, somehow. And then drop it down. I need to move it forward as well because... There we go. Let's get this on the back. I'm being very brave filming this. You can't deny. Oh, now what I need to do as well, I also need to make sure the fudge. Make sure this wiring for the lights is out. There we go. So hopefully this should. It's not going to work, this is it. Because I can't actually see what I'm doing. Oh, might be on a winner. I've got my finger stuck. Yay! Oh. 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 I think we might have got it. Oh. I think, by Jove, we might just have got it. If so, that was a lot easier than I was worried about. The tricky bit is getting that wiring. Let me turn it upside down and make sure it's all... And this is the tricky bit now, there's nowhere to hold on to. Just turn it upside down. This is so heavy. Ooh, back. Dudes, dudettes, ladies and gentle spoons. I think we are in. I think. I can't say 100%. I can't make any promises. It's entirely possible we might not be in. But I think we might be. I don't know. I'm not 100% confident. Might be in. I can't see any screw holes to see if they line up. That's the tricky bit, you see. Yeah, we might not be fully in. Might not quite have lined it up. We might have done. We might not. No, I don't think we have actually. Oh, right. I'll fettle for a little bit and we'll get all this lined up. Back in a minute. The maker. Yes. Panic over. It only took me about 5 seconds to fix it. All it was the screw holes and the actual pegs were like a millimetre out, 1 or 2 millimetres out. And it was purely because the power line at the back here, the connector I'd actually put in from the shell to the chassis, that little plug, was just sticking up a little bit and getting in the way of the floor pan. So I just pushed it down out the way, pushed it back. Perfect. And I knew it wasn't right because there was a gap between the wheel arch and the floor pan where the wheel arch gap is. So, and I could see they weren't quite lined up. So they're all lined up now beautifully. That was a lot easier than I thought. So the trick is, if you're doing it by yourself, get that connector in the back first. Have your body shell sat up like that vertically and your floor pan like this. Make sure the body shell is on something because it needs to be a bit higher up than the chassis. And then just make sure you're not pulling on that wire because it's got very little freedom to move. The actual socket in the chassis has got almost no freedom to move at all. So just keep it lined up and then just gently plonk, put it down, and then get it turned over, and then fettle with the lining up if you need to. Ideally, if you can have another person with you to do that for you, that's even better, but there you go. Use some books like I did. Right, everything's plain sailing after this. We've got the rest of this issue and 4 more to do, and I don't care what they are because they'll take like 5 minutes. Right, that's the big worry about this build. Let's move on then. So I'll go and get all the millions of screws put in to put this, get this all attached together. And then I think we've just got the wheel arches for the front. We have to take the wheels off to do that, and then we've got the grill and stuff. So I shall go and get that done. I'll go and get all the screws put in, and we'll come back for the next step. Oh, I need a stiff drink now. Oh. Okay, so that's done, and we're now on to the final pack, issues 107 to 110. Yes, we're nearly done. Now, before we get going, I do need to explain something. You might not have this problem, but just in case you come across it. Everything's now attached. I went through the instructions, I screwed all the screws into the floor pan, got everything lined up, and then it came to the front end here, and you've got the braces, the engine bay braces that are attached to the chassis that then screw onto the body shell. And you've got the walls of the engine bay, the 2 fluted sides that stick out like that. I found that when you're supposed to put 2 screws into the braces on either side of the engine block, they weren't lined up properly. This side was imperfectly, so all the screw holes lined up with the pegs. But this side, where you've got the body shell here and the engine brace, it's supposed to lock in like that. And then there's a peg up here where this goes together. It wasn't. It was a bit like that. It just kind of slipped up a little bit. I also found that because of that, the side walls of the engine bay, the fluted ones that stick out sideways a bit, they weren't lining up. They were too far back, and they were a bit off to one side, so they weren't lining up perfectly with the body shell. Everything else was fine, screwed together, but this was just a little bit skew-iff. Now, when I assembled the engine bay, I did find that one of the side walls was not quite the right shape. It was a little bit out of shape, so it's probably that. It might have just been a one-off manufacturing issue. It was very easy to fix. I just got a big burly flathead screwdriver and forced things and levered things into place. If you've got, like, you know, I had 2 pieces like that, I just pushed this one out with a flathead screwdriver and it click into place. Then I could put all the screws in. It does mean now that it's all absolutely jammed into place and not going anywhere. So if you do have any problems, once you've got all the floor done, make sure if you're finding these screws not going into the engine braces, just make sure it's all lined up properly and that you've got a nice smooth join around the top of the engine bay and it's all fitting perfectly, because you need to make sure that's in place, otherwise all the stuff later on won't fit. But once that was all lined up and I just literally gemmed it with a screwdriver, I had to jemmy my radiator back in a little bit because that popped out. It was fine. So a bit of a jemming with the screwdriver and it was good. Anyway, right, let's crack on. So next bit we have to do is issue 107, and we're going to be basically finishing off the front grille, which is the first thing we ever built. I'm going to be attaching it to the chassis. So let me go and get the bits and we'll crack on. So sexy. Oh, it's one of the best car faces ever. That is a schnoz and a half. Oh, under the grille and everything. It's just so nice. I haven't seen that for about, what, a year and a half, 2 years? I haven't seen this. So, yeah. Right, anyway, let's crack on. We're going back to the old cast metal parts. We haven't done these for a while. First thing we need to do is bolt this or attach this to the inside of the lower valance with 3 CM screws. So 1 in there. I'll just get 3 in loosely and then we'll tighten them all up one by one. So that's step 1. Now step 2 is actually to build one of the supports, one of the brackets, and I actually did that. It didn't film it. So I'm going to build the other one. So I'll show you that in a minute. But we need to attach this first of all to the bracket, to the grille support. So it needs to go, I've got to pay attention to this now, it needs to go in here and here. So I've got my FM screw ready with its little bit of oil. That's going to sit in there, like that. Perfect, I think. Can't quite see. Now, apologies if the lighting's changed, by the way. I had to move the light when I did the body shell, and it's kind of messed everything up. So, yeah, everything might have just gone to pot. Let's do that way, and then I can see. There we go. It's going to be easier to do this screw down here first. Apologies if my head's in shot, by the way. So we'll do this one at this end first, just to get everything locked in place. And it's easier to do that one first, because you can put your finger on that little flange there and hold it in place. So 2 FM screws. I'm enjoying this now because nothing can dissuade me from enjoying this now. Because all through the years I've been building this, through the last couple of years, not all the way through, but for a lot of it, I've been worrying about the body shell. Because I had that slightly misshapen part on the engine bay. And because I'd seen other people struggle with the body shell, getting the body shell on, I've been quite nervous. But now it's done, I'm so happy. I did have a little bit of squeaky bum time when I realised that the front end of the engine bay, like I said, wasn't quite correctly lined up. Because I thought, hey, it's all worked, and then suddenly it was like, oh no. But I fixed it, so nothing can ruin it now. It's all jolly good, happy times. So just make sure those are locked in place. There we go. Being very careful, of course, not to try and do any damage to this grill on here by bending it or squashing it. So that's that one. I think that's the right way up. Yes, I think so, yes, because there's screws that go in there. Now we need to build the other one. So this is going to need an FM screw as well. So I'll just get an FM screw ready. Now, it's not often I do things like this, one big single take. This is going to be a very long video, I know, but hey, it's momentous. So we need to have this here like that. And then this attaches like that. One FM screw just in there. So shaky, so shaky. There we go. So that's those two in. Those two brackets, hinge and bracket. Make sure I've not damaged anything on here. It's very easy to worry and think, I've got an oily mark there, but never mind. To push that in by accident without realising and bend it. So that's not something you'd want to do. Okay, so the next step is to take the wiring from the headlights, pop it off the chassis, and we need to install it into the schnoz. You have the long stretch here and the thinner stretch there. And the way you need to do it is apparently this one goes in here, this one goes in here, like that. Give them a good push in. They're not going to be super permanently fixed, but they'll be fine. We need that one to go in there. I think I've got these the right way around, I hope. That one to go in there. People sending me messages left, right and centre, so I forgot to turn that off. I need to tape this down now so it sits flush against there. So we've got some pieces of tape. If you've not got any, if you've got your own electrical masking tape, that'll do just fine, but you get 3 bits of tape on here, so we'll use their tape. Be rude not to. Okay, so now we need to attach this to the chassis. It's going to be these 2 tabs here, aligned with these 2 sort of flanges on the engine block or the engine housing. Now, there is a question of what to do with this wire. It doesn't specifically show in the magazine very clearly, but what I'm going to do is thread it through one of the little holes in this reinforcement bar here. It just seems to be a tidy way. This end of the wire won't stick through the hole down there, but this one will. So if I put that through there, we're going to line this up. Slide it on. Sliding now, sir. Be nice and firm. Be nice and firm. Be nice and hopeful. The wires from the lights should go through the holes in that little bulkhead area. There we go, it's going in. Nice. Nice. Not lining up. Not lining up. Come on, you can do it. I don't quite know what's not lining up here, but we'll find out. I may have to turn it over and have a look-see. No. Oops, get that wire out. I can see this may require some extensive fettleage. Do. Right, leave that with me. I'll come back to you in a minute. I'll fettle with it. Right, got that on. Wasn't a problem at all. Took like 5 seconds. When you're sliding this on, at first, your screw holes won't line up and it'll stop. It'll butt up against this piece of the chassis here. Don't panic. Just make sure that you push it a little bit and that the valance here goes underneath this little arm. There's a little gap underneath it and the front lip of the valance slides underneath. That'll move it forward, and all those screw holes will line up between the connection arm and the engine housing. So yeah, dead easy, no effort at all, no hard pushing, just slide it under that bit. Doesn't mention that in the instructions. Slide it under this little bit here, and they'll be fine. Let's get this screwed in. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, so that's done. The front end is now all screwed on and attached and everything else and fixed in place. There's nothing really to show you, it's just lots of little screws. No problems putting it in. It went in like a glove, all the screws fitted perfectly, so all happy times indeed. Now, the next step we need to do is build the two front wheel arch interiors. So I'll do one. I'm not going to do both of them on camera because they're both the same. So we'll start off by lining up these two pieces and getting a couple of AP screws in there. Quite tricky to get these lined up and in because you've only got one pair of hands, but there's a handy little tab on the back there to stop it spinning round. As always, these are screws into plastic, so I'm being a little bit more gentle than I would with metal. We then need to attach 108C, which is this one, and this needs to go, how does this go on? This goes on like that. That doesn't seem very good. Apparently it goes on like this. Seems a bit ramshackle, that way to attach it. I think that's supposed to go like that. Yes. Here, look at this. That suggests that this goes behind, but this shows it in front of, because if you look at that bit there, that's that bit there. I think the image suggests, the top image suggests it goes like that, but the bottom image suggests it goes like that. I think we'll go for the bottom image because that other one makes no sense. It doesn't fit together and it's all loose and wobbly. Yeah, that's a bit misleading, that one. Bit misleading, that Fanhome. Wonder how many people have done that and then wonder why it doesn't fit. I had to take it all apart again, yes. Okay, so this now just needs to be pushed into the wheel well. It covers up this trench here, which is where I'm going to rather handily put this wire. I assume that's the right thing to do. It doesn't tell me if it is or not, but I'm going to assume it is. It's quite tricky to get this in. It doesn't particularly want to go in, but I'm guessing a bit of a push and a squish, and it might actually work. Let's find out. I'm not sure how this is going to go in. It doesn't seem to want to fit. I don't like bending it like that. There. Well, I'm going to have to fiddle with this off camera. Let me go and fiddle with this off camera and then we'll get it sorted. And there we go, that's in. I've put the back piece in as well. I didn't film that. It actually goes in really easily. You just have to get the angle exactly right. It just snicks into place. I had a little bit of trouble with the screws, but it's purely because the green and white wire for the headlights kind of kept getting in the way, and it kept, like, you could see it through the screw hole, or if it wasn't through the screw hole where you shred it to bits with the screw, it was underneath the plastic part and pushing it up too far. So you want to make sure that your green and white wire is really in that little trench and out of the way. And then round the back of this piece as well, it just hides it all away. But do make sure that you're not trapping the wire in the screw holes. If the screws aren't going in quite right, there's something pushing this up too far, or there's a wire in the way, so just be careful. I also had to glue my brake line onto the brake caliper there. It kept coming off, so I've had to just touch the super glue to stick it on, and it shouldn't come off again. So that's that one done. All we need to do now is spong the big wheel back on it. We'll just get that back in there. And then we'll put the hubcap, or the little cap, back on there. Do be careful when you're taking off these little centre hubs. Just make sure you use a little plastic spudger or something just soft, just to pop them out again. There we go, that is now on. So that's that wheel arch now completed. You screw it in there and down at the bottom. All done. I'll go and do the other side. I won't show you that. I didn't show you this one either. And we'll crack on and see what's next after that. But we're nearly there now, nearly there. Ooh, I don't know what this noise means. I don't know what that... Bye. Okay, kids, this is it. issue 110. It's the last one, the last few steps. It's very exciting, apart from the fact that one of the last steps is more circlips. Oh, I'm going to be swearing, there's going to be swearing. But before we do the last few steps, I need to take this piece of tape off here, which I put on a long time ago to hold the brake line in place, which just, you get one little bit there that holds the brake line in place, but this bit just flops about like a, I don't know, useless whatever. So I've got that spare bit of black tape we got earlier on. I could have just left that piece of masking tape on there, but as you saw, it was pretty sticky. But it looks a bit rubbish. Let's instead use this. We'll just put that down there. There you go, and that looks much neater now. It's not going to stand out quite as much. It just means that brake cable's not going to flop down and get caught on things when I move this around on shelves and stuff. I still don't know how I'm going to put this. Oh. Right, so one of the last few steps. We have to put these little trim pieces in on the end here. So they just lock into place over the screw holes, these little posts, hopefully. And then we just lock those in place with some AM screws. Okay, very nearly there, very nearly there. Woo! Right, now it's time to get the bonnet out, the hood, as our American cousins would call it. And this can go on. This is where we'd have to do 4 circlips. Sigh, yes. Take a last look at this engine, because once this is on, this will never be seen by a human person or be... Actually, tell you what I'll do. Just in case, let me just get this brush. Let me get my dusty brush. We'll just give it a little bit of a clean. It's a bit dusty in there. Now, you will notice, of course, that the ignition coil there, the alternator, yeah, that's... I got the one where there weren't enough connections on it. There's supposed to be 9, 8 plus the ignition coil. But for some reason, a lot of people got one where there were just 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I do not have the ignition coil, which is somewhere down there, connected to the distributor, because there is just no option at all for it. I've got the distributor cap sat in my little screw box, but there's just no option for it. Apparently you were supposed to get the correct thing a bit later on, but I don't remember ever getting it, so well, never mind. So where are we? In fact, that's the only bit that's gone wrong on this build, to be perfectly honest, is the distributor cap. Everything else is just as planned. You'll notice this windscreen wiper is held in place with tape. It's just very loose. I'll probably just glue it into place once I finish the build. It's just right now while I'm turning it over and stuff. Although, once this is done, I won't ever have to look at the underbelly ever again. Right, wish me luck that this actually fits. I remember when I did a dry fit of this ages ago, it didn't fit, but that's because it was not installed properly. Right, why have I got all those cables sticking out here? They need to not be doing that. So this needs to go on top here and locate on all the retaining clips. Please go in. Please go in. Please line up. La 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 la. Doesn't help that I can't actually see what I'm doing. All you're seeing right now is the back of my head. Well done. Let's try it from the front first, shall we? Let's try it this way. There we go. That's a bit better. There. Spot on. Now, I was quite surprised to realise, and I hadn't realised this until like, you know, I started thinking about putting this together. It's a very wonky fit. Doesn't actually want to sit flat, does it? Why is it not sitting flat? I've got nothing to bring it up with now. I need something soft and not attacking of metal. What is catching? What is catching here? I don't know. I don't know why it's not working. That little catch needs to go into the front of the bonnet there. That's the bonnet latch. So that needs to go in. These pipes are annoying. Why isn't it? It's a shame that it's not... you can open the bonnet, but... You know, if I had to take the circlips off every single time, no. Well, the fact that you would have to take the circlips off every time means it's never, ever going to happen. Because circlips can just GTFO, quite literally. Why is that not sitting flat? Right, okay, 5-10 minutes later, figured the problem out. There's nothing wrong with the hood. I thought perhaps the hood needed a bit of bending to get into shape because one side was sticking up too far on the latches and you couldn't get the clip in the hole. So I thought, oh, maybe the hood's a little bit out of shape. The same way that one of the sidewalls on my engine bay was out of shape. I tried bending it, but it's too thick to really bend. Turns out that wasn't the problem at all. The entire cause of the problem was the radiator cap. It was sticking up a little bit too far and fouling the hood and making it rock and not sit flat. So I took the radiator cap off, perfect. So it does mean I've got the radiator cap floating about loosely underneath there, you know, in the engine compartment. But seeing as this is never going to come off ever again, I can live with that. It may well be that I've got something misaligned with the radiator perhaps, and it's just sticking up a bit too far. It's probably entirely my fault, but you know what? I can live with the radiator cap floating about in there on the end of a tube. It's fine. So that is now done. The clips went on like an absolute dream because the latches are locked in place. It was like, get them in the pliers, tick, 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 done. Took me 5 seconds each. Absolute brilliant. So I like these circlips. The ones on the back, not so much. So that is that done. Only a couple more steps now. Next we need to do the antenna, the radio antenna. And for this we have this lovely metal piece here. And if I can get it with the tweezers. Let me find my tweezers. The actual antenna base. So this needs to go in here first of all, and there's a slightly D-shaped, I'm not quite sure which way around it goes, but there's a D-shaped peg. There we go, that's in, lovely. Give it a push down. I could pop that in with a bit of CA glue if I wanted to. There we go. Then of course we have the antenna which goes into the little hole. Push that in. That is actually quite tight. It's not too bad actually. It's a reasonable tight fit. I don't want to glue it in place though, because you know at some point I might want to transport this, or I might even sell it. I don't want to be able to pop that out again if I need to. So that's the antenna. There's only 2 little bits left to do now. The next bit is a really fiddly little piece. We need to install the unloader valve. This needs to clip into the little hole on the front there. Please don't fall out into the engine bay. That would not be cool if you did. Please don't be a D shape either, because that would be a pain in the bum. Are we in? Are we in? I think we're in. It just sticks out a tiny amount over the edge of the hood. It's ridiculous. But yeah, if this was a real car, you'd have to literally disassemble the unloader valve every time, which is nonsense. The very last thing to do, apart from giving it a coat of wax, very last thing to do is take, I think the very first thing we built, or one of the very first things we built, was actually a wheel, I think, at start, which is of course the supercharger. And this now goes on. Now I did actually have to widen these holes a bit, because this isn't my first supercharger. I got the first one, and when I tried to take it off again, it snapped the little pins, because the holes were just about big enough for the pins, but a bit grippy, so it snapped. So I've actually widened those. Basically, there's no way to keep taking it on and off. So if I now mount this on there. Oh, and there goes the antenna, completely coming out. Okay, we might need to... Hey, I've dropped it on the floor. Well, hey, that ruined the moment, didn't it? Hang on. Let's get this back out again. Let's put the antenna down there for a second. I can't see what I'm doing. Hello, you see my head? Can't actually see. It's got 2 pins, right? 2 pins there, Fox, and 1 at the front. Let's get this in. I'm really delicate with this because there we go. Right, that's the bit on there. We'll put this antenna back in, the little cheeky devil. There we go. And that is build complete. It's the first part work I've actually got around to finishing. I will now take a few moments to give it a bit of a dust. I'm going to give it at some point in the next couple of days. When it turns up, I've got some wax. I will give it a good clean and a proper coat of wax. I've got some Dodo Juice Purple Haze turning up, because that's great for black cars and dark colour cars. I'll give it a proper wax and clean. I'll give it a quick go with the floofy cloth in a minute, and I'll get it on the white background, and we'll have a proper look. So this has been a very long video. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching this series. I really, really appreciate that you stuck with me all the way through. I am full of gratitude and massive thanks to the guys at Fanhome for sending me this potwork free of charge. I have enjoyed it. There's been some hair-raising moments and I've had to replace a couple of bits here and there through my own stupidity. But a big, massive thank you to Fanhome for providing this. A big, massive thank you for you guys for watching it. And now I've got to go and find somewhere to put this bugger. Oh, 8 kilograms. I don't know if any of my shelves can deal with it. Right, let me go and get it all tarted up. We'll get it on the white background and you can have a proper look. Guys, girls, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome. Oh, don't forget, of course, if you want to get this potwork for yourself, there's a link in the description below the video. Take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome. Go be awesome. And until next time, big hugs. Adios, amigos.